Hello, folks. Welcome back to my channel. This is the World of TV Shows, and today I have another episode review for you of NCIS. And today we're going to be taking a little look at the 8th episode of the first season called Minimum Security. The episode originally aired on November 25th, 2003 on CBS. It was directed by Ian Thornton and written by Philip D. Gior Jr. and as well as Donald P. Belisario. So, in this episode, the NCIS team is going to be traveling to Gitmo after a petty officer from of Egyptian descent, basically happened to die in the United States after, from what appears to be some kind of a bleeding that might have been caused by some emeralds that were found inside of his stomach, right? So basically, the NCIS team is going to go down to, fly off to Cuba, right? To Guantanamo Bay, to be more specific, where they're going to be meeting there the translator who's going to help a little bit, provide them with, the evidence that they need. And then they're going to be, once they're there, they're going to start investigating a little bit within the prison itself by going to speak to somebody who might have been related to what happened, but I don't want to spoil too much or anything, so I won't tell you exactly in what way. But basically I didn't mention, but there's also an NCIS agent who is going to be from the same agency, but not the same team. Her name is Paula Cassidy. And basically, Gibbs is going to try to kind of keep it close to the vest because he believes that he's a little bit suspicious of her and he believes that she might have been involved in what happened. So he doesn't want to disclose too much information or let her in on their findings until he knows for sure that, she's being basically ruled out as a possible suspect, right? So this is pretty much how it goes. They're the inmate, his name is Nasir, right? Who is basically gonna, to a certain extent, he knew the victim and he was one of his friends, but it seems that he also happens to know more than he's letting on. So there's that whole kind of secrecy aspect to that too, right? So I guess this is pretty much how the episode goes. Sorry about that. Did you hear it? It's just my mouth sometimes makes making sounds. I don't mean it, but yes, as I'm speaking quickly, I just can't help it all the time. Anyhow, so this is pretty much what minimum security is, and there's a big twist near the end of the episode. I won't tell you what it is because I don't want to spoil too much or anything, but it's a pretty interesting twist. For those who have watched it, you probably know what I'm talking about, and I cannot disclose it here because that might spoil the plot for you, which I don't want to do. So minimum security. What did I think about this episode, right? So I thought that this is definitely one of my favorite episodes of the season, of the show, possibly. It is good, especially to have these agents, kind of getting out of their comfort zones. Yes, a bit, because in the previous episodes, well, we kind of got to see them on a submarine, inside of a submarine in the previous episode. And then earlier than that, they also went to some another ship or something like that, in the sea. But in here, it's kind of different for them to be going to that place, to Gitmo, which is kind of, not really kind of within their jurisdiction, not exactly within their jurisdiction, but since they're the NCIS team and they investigate everything Navy, it's this is why they happen to go there. So yeah, I thought that this episode was pretty good. Especially there's a lot of humor between Gibbs, Kate, and Donoso. And at some point when Donoso is going to meet Paula Cassidy, the two of them are going to be off to a rough start, to say the least. They don't really get along. But as the episode goes on and then near the end, you kind of, get a different picture without spoiling too much or anything. So, yeah, Minimum Security is definitely a good episode with yes, a plot that kind of, I guess I could say it without spoiling too much or anything, but it is kind of terrorism, related, the main storyline that is. So yeah, it's pretty, it's intense, right? It's not the kind of plots that would leave you, you wouldn't forget it easily. So yes, minimum security is one of these episodes that you would remember if you've watched the show, because this is one of the episodes that kind of stand out, right? Especially if you've watched, you know the main, themes of the show, which are basically they're trying to, you know fight terrorism, the NCIS team. So this is definitely one of the I guess you could say quite an important episode in as far as the first season is concerned, and possibly the show altogether as a whole. So yeah, it was a good episode for what it was. I kind of liked the whole scenery shift, by them going to a different place. As I said before, it's in a different country, and it's different. It's difficult for them to basically, be accustomed at first to their surroundings, because you know, there's so many unexpected things to look out for in this new kind of environment, right? So anyhow, let's move on to the actors and the characters. So we have the main ones. I'm not gonna, tell you again, because you probably must remember them by now. So especially if you watch the show. But we have the guest starring actors. Eric Avery plays Agent William Gamel, who was the translator, right? If I'm not mistaken, who did a pretty good job. We have Jessica Steen, who plays Agent Paula Cassidy, who was definitely a very good character in this in this first introduction to her character in the show. Really thought that Jessica Steen did pretty well. Then we have Kevin McCorkle, who plays Colonel Dan McLafferty. Colonel Dan McLafferty, right? Sorry about this. Sometimes when I read, I don't read properly right off the bat. But Kevin McCorkle was in Cold Case too. He played, yes, in the show in Cold Case. He guest starred in a few episodes, so it was pretty good to have him here as the colonel in this episode. I kind of liked having him there. He did a pretty good job. Then we have Michael Seamus Wiles, who plays Jimmy. Pancho Demings plays Joel Jackson. Heath Freeman plays Benjamin Frank, who was in an episode of Bones, if I'm not mistaken, or was that a few? Yes, Heath Freeman, who passed away a few years back, did a pretty good job in this episode of the show of NCIS. He worked with Abby a little bit, the forensics expert, the goth, right? Then we have Joseph Bay, who plays Nasir Al Jazair, right? So really liked his performance in this episode. Yes, Joseph Bay as Nasir was pretty good. He's that one inmate that kind of stands out a little bit. You don't really know whether he had something to do with what happened or not. So he's one of the main suspects of this episode. Then we have Casey McCarthy, who plays the biker chick at the beginning. Then Paul Vincent, the biker. Yes, in the opening sequence, something happens involving bikers, and I won't spoil or anything. Then we have but I thought it was pretty funny. And then we have Roger Mitchell, who plays MP. And finally, Rach Titizian, who plays Tariq Abbasi, son-in-law, right? I'll leave you with that. I don't want to spoil too much or anything. But yeah, it was a pretty good episode, especially there's a scene, which is actually the scene that features this picture when you have Gibbs and Kate kind of barging in. I'll let you find out for yourselves why, this happens. But yeah, it was pretty funny. It is a scene involving Denozo. I thought that there was some humor in this episode too, with Denozo and Gibbs and Kate having to stay in the same kind of house, where they have to basically, for the duration of their staying, and something happens involving an iguana. I'll let you find out for yourselves what it is, but it's pretty funny if you ask me. So if I were to rate this episode on a scale from 1 to 10, I'd definitely give it a solid 9.5 out of 10. It's definitely one of my favorite episodes of the season, of the show. It was so good, really enjoyed it, especially the whole progression, and the big twist near the end was pretty big, and I didn't see it coming. So 9.5 out of 10 for me for Minimum Security, one of my favorite episodes of the show. So I guess this is pretty much it for it. So yeah, 9.5 out of 10. What about you folks? What did you think about Minimum Security? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next review. In the meantime, folks, stay safe. Goodbye, and take care. This is the Word Up TV show signing off.